أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا ونبينا وحبيب قلوبنا أبي القاسم المصطفى محمد اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وعلى آل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين الحمد لله رب العالمين الحمد لله الذي جعلنا من المتمسكين بولاية سيدي ومولاي علي بن أبي طالب والحمد لله الذي هدانا لهذا وما كنا لنهتدي لولا أن هدانا الله بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم ربي اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي. In the name of God, the most beneficent, the most merciful, we ask Allah to send His greatest peace and blessings upon Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. We praise Allah for all the blessings He has given us, and the greatest blessing being that He allowed us to be the ones who remain steadfast, dedicated, and loyal on the path of our master after the Prophet, the commander of the faithful, the prince of the believers, the protector of the Prophet and his message, Imam Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salam. We praise Allah for this blessing and every blessing, for without Allah we would have nothing. Assalamu alaikum, my dear respected brothers and sisters, wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Today we're going to continue in our conversations, our discussions on the vision of a virtuous community. And we've made some way so far in discussing all of these topics, and we got to this point after yesterday discussing what it means to be followers of Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam and how that identity looks like for us in both a social aspect and then from a core aspect of the way we see ourselves within this greater structure of our community and our society. Today we're going to be delving into what are the attributes of the Shia as told to us by the Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, by Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam, and ultimately by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If we look and we see the attributes of the Shia, just to have a general level, some of the things that have been described of the Shia, of the followers of Ahlul Bayt, are things like as-salihun, the virtuous, ulil albab, those of intellect, awliyaullah, the friends of God, al-musallin, the prayerful, and ashabul yameen, the people of the right. Now we're going to go today into all of these different attributes and ask some questions. The questions that we're going to be asking inshallah today are going to be the following. So let's take them one by one, and inshallah also in the spirit of remembering Lady Khadija alayhi salam, the Holy Prophet's beloved wife, who we're commemorating tonight as the eve of her wafat, of her passing. We're going to say some short words in honor of her as well. But to go over a quick overview of what we're going to be discussing, what we're going to be asking, the questions, they're going to be the following. One, are the Shia of Ahlul Bayt mentioned in the Holy Quran? Are they referred to in the Holy Quran? Secondly, what is the difference between conceptual intellect and practical intellect? Thirdly, who are the friends of God, awliyaullah? Fourth, what did Muhammad ibn Fudail, one of the companions of Imam Rida, what did he say? What did he talk to Imam Rida about? What did their conversation look like? And then fifth, what was the good news that Prophet Muhammad gave to Imam Ali alayhi salam? Before jumping into all of that, we wanted to just say a few words about Lady Khadija. Lady Khadija was the beloved wife of our Holy Prophet, his first and true love. As Lady Khadija alayhi salam would be one who would recruit our Prophet Muhammad in his younger days as a young man who was known for his honesty, his work ethic, his intelligence. She would recruit him to work for her company, essentially. She was one of the most successful businesswomen in her age, in her era. She was a merchant and had dozens and hundreds of merchants working under her. She had some of the greatest caravans in Arabia. Lady Khadija alayhi salam was not just known for being a businesswoman and one who was successful in her own right, but she was giving, she was generous, she was God-fearing. She was actually the first person who said, La ilaha illallah, Muhammad Rasulullah. It was Lady Khadija alayhi salam who was the Prophet's right hand. She was his backbone. She was everything to him. It is said that during the earliest days of Islam and the growth of Islam, that this religion would not have grown and become what it became if it were not for two things. were not for the sword, as in the protection of Ali ibn Abi Talib against the enemies of Islam who wanted to persecute the Islam and the Muslims, and the wealth of Khadija. The wealth of Khadija being what provided the infrastructure for the Muslims in the Muslim community, who was a disenfranchised community, who was a community that was discriminated against by the pagans of Quraysh in where they started in the city of Mecca. Let us go back and try to take lessons from the life of Lady Khadija and see that she was one who sacrificed everything that she had in order to truly be a servant of God and His Prophet. She would give everything that she could. So much so that Lady Khadija alayhi salam, in her last days, she would die hungry. Why? Because she literally gave everything willingly and didn't want to keep anything for herself, to take care of widows, to take care of the poor, to take care of orphans, and to help people that really had no one else to turn to. And she was there time and time again. Lady Khadija alayhi salam, when the Prophet was there to witness his wife pass away, and those final days, that year became known as the year of Huzn, Amul Huzn, the year of sorrow, because of how much he loved Lady Khadija alayhi salam, how much he cared for her. The words that he used with her were sweet as honey. And no one would enter the heart of our Holy Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam the way our Lady Khadija alayhi salam did. In her memory, in her honor, we remember her, we cite to her attributes, and inshallah we can take lesson from her and emulate her path in being true servants of God and His Prophet. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Let's go into the questions that we mentioned. The first question that we're going to be tackling is, are the Shia of Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam, are they mentioned in the Holy Quran? Now, Abu Basir, one of the companions of Imam al-Sadiq alayhi salam, who we mentioned in the past nights, Abu Basir goes to Imam al-Sadiq and he has some questions for him. He tells him that, he tells Imam al-Sadiq, I need some explanation. I want you to talk to me about the following verse. This verse in the Holy Quran, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, in chapter 4, verse 69, Imam al-Sadiq alayhi salam is asked about this verse by his companion. The verse is, whoever obeys God and the Apostle, they are with those whom God are blessed. They're with those whom God has blessed, including the prophets and the truthful, the martyrs and the righteous and the excellent, and what excellent companions they are. Now, Imam al-Sadiq alayhi salam, when Abu Basir asks him about this, he begins to explain it, and he says, if you're looking at this verse, you'll see that Rasulullah in this situation is an-Nabiyyun, the apostles, the prophets. We are the truthful and the martyrs, and you are the righteous by God. You, our Shia, are the righteous or the virtuous, as-salihun. The Imam continues and he says, لَقَدْ ذَكَرَكُمُ اللَّهُ فِي كِتَابِهِ حَيْثُ قَالَ هَلْ يَسْتَوِي الَّذِينَ يَعْلَمُونَ وَالَّذِينَ لَا يَعْلَمُونَ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has mentioned you in His book when He said, are those who know equal to those who do not know? Only those who possess intellect. إِنَّمَا يَتَذَكَّرُ أُولُو الْأَلْبَابِ. Only those who possess intellect take admonition. It is us who are those who know, the ones الَّذِينَ يَعْلَمُونَ. Our enemies are those who do not know, and our Shia, our followers, are those who possess intellect, أُولُو الْأَلْبَابِ. Now, what's the difference here? There's a key point that we need to consider is, what's the difference here between a conceptual intellect and practical intellect? Because the Imam here is referring to those who possess intellect, ulul albab, in the Holy Quran, in this verse from the Holy Quran. When it comes to ulul albab, those who possess intellect, we have to understand the difference between conceptual intellect and practical intellect. The difference between conceptual intellect and practical intellect is that conceptual intellect is something that all of us have. Conceptual intellect is based on the faculties that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given us of learning, of abstract thinking, rationalization, cognitive functioning, all of those things, they factor into what conceptual intellect has. Every human being has this by default. But when we're talking about those who possess intellect, ulul albab, as referred to in the Holy Quran, it's those who possess practical intellect. And practical intellect, on the other hand, this is something that refers to decision making used to adhere to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's expectation from us at all times. Ulul albab, the possession of intellect, practical intellect, means we are taking the faculties that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given us of learning, of education, of abstract thinking, of cognitive functioning, and using that to align ourselves fully with God all the time. That's the emphasis or the distinction here between conceptual intellect, which you and I, all of us have, versus practical intellect, which is possessed by those who are few and those who are referred to in the Holy Quran as ulul albab, and by the Imam al-Sadiq alayhi salam, as being our followers, our Shia. Now, we've hit the first question and the second question, which go hand in hand and gives us a solid foundation into understanding some other parts of the questions that we have tonight, in which we're looking at what are the attributes of the followers of Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam. The third area that we want to jump into, the third question, is who are the friends of God? Now, Imam Ali ibn Abi Talib, Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam, he explains the following verse from the Holy Quran, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. He says in chapter 10, verse 62, look, the friends of God will indeed have no fear, nor will they grieve. So imagine this, a lot of times when we think of our journey in life, our fears, the things that we hesitate from, and then the transition from this life onto the next life, you have a lot of hesitation, you have a lot of fear, you have a lot of things that are unknown. But Imam Ali alayhi salam refers to this verse in the Holy Quran where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks about certain people that don't have fear and they will not be grieving. They don't have anything to really worry about. You and I, we have worries left and right, and these are worries that are usually induced by our own selves. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying the friends of God, awliyaullah, do not have anything to fear and do not have anything to grieve. Imam Ali alayhi salam was asked by his companions about this. In fact, actually, as the narration tells us, the Imam asks his companions, he says, أَتَدْرُونَ مَنْ أَوْلِيَاءُ اللَّهِ? Do you know who the friends of God are? The companions respond and say, Ya Amir al-Mu'mineen, tell us, who are the friends of God? He says, هُمْ نَحْنُ وَأَتْبَاعُنَا فَمَنْ تَبِعَنَا مِنْ بَعْدِهِمْ طُوبَى لَنَا وَطُوبَى لَهُمْ أَفْضَلُ مِنْ طُوبَى لَنَا. He says, the friends of God are us, our followers, and those who follow us after them. Glad tidings be to us, and glad tidings be to them, that the reward that they will receive is actually better than ours, better than the followers of the Imam at that time. One of the companions looks at Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam, and he tells him, Ya Amir al-Mu'mineen, why is the reward for them better than ours? Are we not the same? That us as your followers now and the followers that are to come, are we not all the same? Are we not all followers? The Imam responds and he says, no, as they will be made to carry that which you were not asked to carry. And they will bear that which you have not bared. So their reward will be greater than yours. The Imam is describing, hopefully, us. Hopefully the individuals who have come after the Imams of that time and say that we are the followers of Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam. We are connecting ourselves to them, aligning ourselves to them, committing ourselves to them, and we don't see them. Especially in the era of occultation, when we're thinking of this virtuous community that we've been talking about these nights, this virtuous community in which we are trying to build, we don't have the Imam with us in the sense of the way the followers of Imam Ali alayhi salam had Amir al-Mu'mineen with them, where they would see them and talk to him and be with him at all times. our Imam is with us. But during the trial of the era of the occultation, we don't have that same access. The Imam is referring to these followers and saying that if you are truly our followers, as being those who are awliya Allah, the friends of God, your reward is going to be greater than the reward that is existent now, as he described to his followers. Now further, we see that the Imams continue to give us insight on what it means to be one of their followers. There's a beautiful conversation that is had, and this is the fourth question we're going to be addressing. This conversation that takes place between one of the companions of Imam Ali Rida alayhi salam, named Muhammad ibn Fudayl. So in one of our great scholars, Al-Astrabadi in his book called Ta'wil al-Ayat, he narrates this conversation between Muhammad ibn Fudayl and Imam Rida alayhi salam. In this conversation, the Imam is asked by his companion about certain verses from the Holy Quran. You'll see throughout history conversations that take place between the companions of Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam and the Imams, asking them about what are the meanings, the deeper meanings of the verses from the Holy Quran. The Imams had that role of being that supplement to the Quran. That is why when you look and you see that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, through the Prophet Muhammad, when he completed the faith, he gave the Prophet the instruction to make sure people know that what is left for them in order to hold on to the path of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the path of God, they are to hold on to the two weighty things, al-thaqalain, kitabullah wa atrati, the book of God and the Prophet's family. You'll see throughout history with each of the Imams, they are asked by their companions, what are the words from the Holy Quran mean? Tell us about the deeper meaning. Do the tafsir, do the exegesis of these verses for us. So Imam Rida alayhi salam is asked by Muhammad ibn Fudayl about the following verses. He asks him in the following verse, and you'll see on your screen the actual citing of the verses. The verse, إِلَّا الْمُصَلِّينَ الَّذِينَ هُمْ عَلَى صَلَاتِهِمْ دَائِمُونَ. He asks him, what about this verse where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, all are such except the prayerful, those who preserve in their prayers. Who are the prayerful? The Imam responds and he says, أُولَٰئِكَ وَاللَّهِ أَصْحَابُ الْخَمْسِينَ مِنْ شِيَعَتِنَا. By God, those are the ones of the 50, أصحاب الخمسين, the 50 of our Shia. Not 50 Shia, but of the 50 being those who practice the 50, more specifically the 51 prayer, or the 51 units of prayer. Now, one of the attributes of being a believer, as described by Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam, is those who pray the 51 rak'ahs during the day. The 17 mandatory rak'ahs from the 5 prayers that we have, and then the 34 additional rak'ahs that are from the nawafil, from the extra recommended prayers that we have in between those prayers, or after or before those prayers. The Imam says, أُولَٰئِكَ وَاللَّهِ أَصْحَابُ الْخَمْسِينَ مِنْ شِيعَتِنَا. Then Muhammad ibn Fudayl, he asks the Imam, what about this? وَالَّذِينَ هُمْ عَلَى صَلَاتِهِمْ يُحَافِظُونَ. And what about those who are watchful of their prayers? When Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says about those who are watchful over their prayers, who are they? Please tell me about them. The Imam says again, أُولَٰئِكَ أَصْحَابُ الْخَمْسِ صَلَوَاتٍ مِنْ شِيعَتِنَا. It is those who observe the 5 daily prayers from our Shia. So those who are observing the 5 daily prayers, this is a reference to them amongst our Shia. Finally, Ibn Fudayl asked the Imam, وَأَصْحَابُ الْيَمِينَ مَا أَصْحَابُ الْيَمِينَ. And the people of the right hand, what are the people of the right hand? The Imam said, هُمْ وَاللَّهِ مِنْ شِيعَتِنَا. By God, they are from our Shia, from our followers. The Imam emphasizes here that our followers are these individuals. Our followers are these ones who are preserving in their prayers. They're watchful over their prayers. The prayer is something that they are so connected and entrenched in their day. Their prayer is one with them, and they are one with their prayer. Further, we see a conversation that takes place between Imam Ali ibn Abi Talib, Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam, and the Holy Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi. The fifth question here is, what was the good news that the Prophet gave Imam Ali alayhi salam? In Shaykh al-Saduq's book, Al-Amali, Salman al-Farisi, one of the great companions of the Holy Prophet and of Imam Ali alayhi salam, he's sitting with the Holy Prophet. And as he's sitting with the Holy Prophet, benefiting from his presence, speaking to the Holy Prophet, Imam Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salam walks in. When Imam Ali alayhi salam walks in, just like the Prophet sallallahu alaihi always did, he greets the Imam with such a beautiful embrace. He embraces the Imam, he smiles, he hugs him. And as he's looking at Imam Ali alayhi salam, his brother, his companion, his successor, his guardian, the one who, whenever he looked at him, he just was in awe. And he would emphasize to his followers that the mentioning of Ali ibn Abi Talib, the looking at Ali ibn Abi Talib, if you were to just look at this man, this is worship of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Why again? The emphasis being not just his mere connection to him as his brother, his cousin, his son-in-law, his companion, the person who was with him from day one. Mind you, when we mentioned about Lady Khadija alayhi salam in the beginning, we mentioned that Lady Khadija alayhi salam was the first to accept the message of Rasulullah and say, La ilaha illallah Muhammad Rasulullah. The first individual after Khadija would be no other than Ali ibn Abi Talib, the one who would accept the faith at such a young age, a young man who, when no one would support the Prophet, this Ali ibn Abi Talib, this young man, who against all the odds, and even when people ridiculed him and the Prophet, saying as his uncles in Dawat al-Ashira, when the Holy Prophet was instructed by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to go to his family members and bring them all together, have a feast, and upon this feast, tell them that I am the messenger of God and God has endowed me with this revelation, and I want supporters amongst my family, and whoever vows to support me and be with me, then he will be my successor, he will be my guardian, he will be my heir, he will be the person to take over after me, and God will give him all these rewards. Everyone looked at the Holy Prophet dumbfounded, thinking, support you with what? Support you for what? All of the uncles were there watching, Abu Lahab, Abu Jahl, amongst others. And they were just waiting to see who is even going to answer this guy. Amir al-Mu'mineen, that young man who the Prophet tasked him with actually all of the logistics in bringing this feast of the family for Dawat al-Ashira to actually take place. He would make the arrangements, he would get the food, he would set the entire scene, he would invite all of the uncles, he would bring them all together. It was Imam Ali alayhi salam, this young man, this young boy, who would come and stand up and say, Ana laka ya Rasulullah, I am for you, O Messenger of God. I am here for you, O Messenger of God. And he would do that 3 times over, the Prophet emphasizing, I'm going to ask once, twice, and thrice. And it was only Ali ibn Abi Talib that would be the one to answer that call. So the Prophet, as you can imagine, the one who brought Imam Ali alayhi salam into his home and raised him as a child, the one who was considered to be his shadow. Wherever the Prophet went, our narrations would say Ali ibn Abi Talib would be like that baby camel that would follow its mother wherever it went. Ali ibn Abi Talib would be the shadow of Rasulullah, following him wherever he would go. So as Imam Ali alayhi salam walks in, the Prophet embraces him and tells him, Ya Ali, Ala ubashiruka ya Ali. Says, Oh Ali, should I give you some good news? To that, Imam Ali alayhi salam would smile and say, Bala ya Rasulullah. Yes, O Messenger of God. The Prophet shared the news. He says, Ya Ali, هذا حبيبي جبرائيل يخبرني عن الله عز وجل أنه قد أعطى محبيك وشيعتك 7 خصال: الرفق عند الموت، والأنس عند الوحشة، والنور عند الظلمة، والأمن عند الفزع، والقسط عند الميزان، والجواز على الصراط، ودخول الجنة قبل سائر الناس من الأمم. The Holy Prophet tells Imam Ali alayhi salam, my beloved Jibreel, Gabriel, the angel Gabriel is informing me on behalf of God the Exalted by His Majesty, that He has given your devotees, your admirers, those who love you, your followers, 7 traits. 1, ease during death. 2, companionship during loneliness. 3, light during darkness. 4, safety during fear. 5, equity during judgment. 6, a pass along the path of paradise. And 7, entry into paradise before the people of all nations. Now, Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam takes in this news and of course is so happy to hear all of this, is so delighted to hear all of this. Now, you and I, brothers and sisters, when we're looking at this news and we're looking at all of the things that we mentioned, the 5 questions we just went over, and all of these things that we're looking at as the attributes of the Shia, of Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam, where does that put you and I? Where does that put us? What is our relationship with all of this? Now, Salman al-Farisi is sitting there watching the scene. Salman al-Farisi definitely being one who Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam considered to be of his Shia. In fact, our narrations would say that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam would tell Salman al-Farisi, Salman, anta minna Ahlul Bayt, that you're not just one of our followers, you're actually one of our family members. You are from our household. Salman minna Ahlul Bayt. But there's also narrations where our imams, like Imam al-Sadiq alayhi salam, would look at his companions, like Sudayr, sitting amongst him. And he would look at his companions and say, Antum alu Muhammad. Antum wallah alu Muhammad. That you, our followers, are from the household of the Prophet. You are from our family. Now, the honor that is had by being followers of Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam is truly immense. It is truly on a whole nother level. But the challenge here is, are we truly followers of Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam? Do we manifest these attributes? Do we have the ability to conduct ourselves in a way and commit ourselves to this lofty status in which, when we're looking again, as we referenced before, it is one thing to be in Masjid al-Haram. It is another thing to be in the Kaaba. It is one thing to say, La ilaha illallah, Muhammad Rasulullah, Aliyun Waliyullah, and to say that on our tongue and to profess this with pride. But it's another thing to have it settled in our heart. It's another thing for us to truly manifest this in our actions and in our conduct. The good news is, if we make that commitment, if we make it upon ourselves to truly follow the path of Muhammad wa Ali Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, then the reward is like no other. You have this, you're passing along a sirat, you're going on with entering paradise before any other group. You have no fear that you are from the friends of God, those who have no fear. These are our followers. These are our admirers. These are the people that have committed themselves to our path. And I'll emphasize this again so that we continue to have this as full circle. It is not merely by being one who admires Ahlul Bayt. Anybody can admire virtue. Anybody can admire a beautiful character of someone who has the highest ethics. The Prophet's enemies admired him. The Prophet's enemies had nothing but respect for him because of the man that he was. But it's another thing for me to look at the Holy Prophet ﷺ and realize when the Prophet is saying, Ali is with truth and the truth is with Ali, it turns wherever he turns. It is that Ali ibn Abi Talib was committed to the truth like no other. Imam Ali alayhi salam would describe, when it came to his engagement with vice, with sin, he would say that the veil has been taken off for me. And by taken off, meaning he chose to remove the veil. He saw vice and sin for what it was. He saw sin for what it was and stayed away every single time. He saw virtue for what it was and continued to go after virtue each and every time with every opportunity. Imam Ali alayhi salam would manifest this, and his followers, his companions, the true ones, would follow this and manifest this in every aspect of their life. We'll mention that Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam and the Holy Prophet and each and every one of our Imams had a very close relationship with their companions. And that their companions would make sure that everything that they did was following suit with their instruction. So you and I, when we're looking at our lifestyles and the things that we do, how much of it is truly in line with the expectations of Muhammad wa Ali Muhammad? How much of it is truly in line with this is what they want from me and this is the way that they would have me live my life? Am I thinking about them in my daily routine? Am I thinking about what would bring me closer to them? In the outings that I have, in the things that I read, if I read, in the things that I watch, and the friends that I have, and the job that I work, and the career that I'm pursuing, and the education that I'm taking, and the businesses that I'm opening, is it truly that I'm looking at how would Ali ibn Abi Talib, Amir al-Mu'mineen, conduct himself in business? Or Imam Ali alayhi salam, or the Prophet, or Imam al-Sadiq, or Imam al-Rada alayhi salam, or each one and every one of our Imams, when they're speaking to me and they're saying, Antum wallah alu Muhammad, that you are truly from the family of Muhammad. That when they're looking at the verses of the Holy Quran, are the Shia mentioned in the Holy Quran? Absolutely. Now, when we bring this all together, we find that we answer the number of questions that we mentioned. Let's take a look over this and make sure that we've covered it all. Finally, when you're looking at the last list of questions, we're seeing that, yes, are the Shia mentioned in the Holy Quran? If we can pull to those 5 questions. For the Shia mentioned in the Holy Quran, yes, Ahlul Bayt alayhi salam and the Holy Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, refer to the verses that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions in these high attributes and say these verses are referring to us and our followers. Secondly, when it comes to the difference between conceptual and practical intellect, all of us have an intellect. God has differentiated human beings from the creations of animals, for example, and other things, and of the angels who are just simply and purely intellect. That one of the greatest things about us and our potential is that we have both desire and intellect. But it is our desire that allows us to continue to be fi ahsani taqweem, the best of forms. But if it is we allow our intellect to fail to our desire and to be succumbed by our desire, then we are relegated to the lowest of the low. The difference between conceptual and practical intellect is that conceptual intellect is had by everyone by default. Practical intellect is that we're using our faculties that God gave us to continue to be aligned with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and the expectation that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has of us. Third, who are the friends of God? We asked these as awliya Allah are Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam, their followers and those that would follow after. And that the reward of those who would follow after, possibly us, would be even greater than the followers of the time of the Imam alayhi salam. In that case being Imam Ali ibn Abi Talib, Amir al-Mu'mineen. For the conversation between Muhammad ibn Fudail and Imam al-Rada alayhi salam, the Imam explains that the prayerful, those who preserve the prayer, those who are in these verses that Muhammad ibn Fudail mentioned, all of these individuals that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is mentioning are a reference to who? Shi'atuna, our followers. The prayerful, those who observe the prayer, Ashabul Yameen, those of the right hand, those are all references to the followers of Ahlul Bayt. Finally, the question that we asked was, what was the good news that the Prophet gave Imam Ali alayhi salam? It was as he smiled when Imam Ali walked in, that Jibreel told him on behalf of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that He is honoring the followers and lovers of Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam with 7 things: ease during death, companionship during loneliness, light during darkness, safety during fear, equity during judgment, a pass along the path to paradise, and the entrance to heaven before anyone else. Brothers and sisters, we're going to continue the conversations on a nightly basis as we develop further an understanding of what is this virtuous community. The virtuous as a salihun by Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam, them and their followers, and developing this virtuous community for not only the people who are ones of that core identity, as we explained yesterday, as being servants and followers of Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam, but one that encompasses all of humanity. We're going to continue these conversations, inshallah, in the theme of the virtuous community as the nights continue. We ask you to keep us in your prayers, and inshallah, you are in ours. هذا والحمد لله رب العالمين وأفضل الصلاة والتسليم على نبينا محمد وعلى آل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين.